Hi, welcome. My name is Danielle Navarro. I'm going to talk today in these screencasts about a subject that I think that we don't talk about as often as we should at universities. So you enroll in universities and you take subjects like psychology or statistics or computer science or whatever, and it's sort of assumed that you know how to do a project. So the only thing we need to teach you is, the specifics of the psychology or whatever the statistical tools are, or, we teach you the subject matter. We don't teach you a lot about how to organize projects. And in real life, this is a surprisingly important subject. So I'm going to go through some basic things you can do to help structure your project a little better. And it's mostly low-tech kind of thing, so there's not actually going to be very much programming in this at all. So here we go. What I'm going to do is, this comes in two parts. In the first part, which is what I'm going to record now, I'm going to talk about how to name files, which seems like the kind of thing that should be obvious, but in my experience, and in my experience of making lots of mistakes, this isn't as obvious as it looks. And then I'm going to talk quite a bit about how to structure projects, how to organize them, and make them easy for you to pick up later on when 3 months later you think, oh, I should actually finish this, and you've got no idea what you're looking at. Okay, so here we go. This is an introductory unit, so you shouldn't need to have taken on, had a look at anything else that I've recorded, and you shouldn't need to have any programming knowledge in order to make it through these videos. Where can you find the resources? As is usually the case, the slides that you're looking at here on the screen are on my website at slides.djnavarro.net. In this case, it's /project structure. And there will be, when I finish recording all of this, there'll be videos, playlist up on YouTube. Okay, so let's dive right in. The first thing I want to talk about is how to give your files names. And names are important. Like, as almost anybody knows, when you've been called by the wrong name and it's kind of annoying, names matter to people. But names matter to machines as well. So I'm going to talk a lot about that, and in order to do so, I should start out with the most important thing of all, the acknowledgement that everything I know on this subject I have shamelessly stolen from Jenny Bryan, who is fabulous and has a great set of slides which I've linked to here, called on how to name files. And after you've gone through all these, I would strongly recommend going and have a look at her slides, which are a little bit more detailed than mine. They're worth the effort. Okay. So I like motivating this by, thinking of like the classic, scene in Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare, right? And Juliet's up on the balcony or something, and she's lamenting about the fact that she's fallen in love with Romeo, this boy who unfortunately belongs to another family, the Montagues, who are enemies of her own, and she's complaining about the name. It's like, look, 'tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, not a Montague. Right? A file is what it is. It shouldn't matter what it's called. And the key, quote that everybody likes to use a lot is this bit here: "That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." The thing I want to point out is this is not true when it comes to file names. Everything that you got from Romeo and Juliet, if you ever were forced to study the play in high school, not true. Absolutely not true. When it comes to files, think of the file name as a kind of metadata. It is a thing that is easily visible. It's the first thing you can see on your computer that tells you something about the file. It's not meant to be poetic. It's not meant to be elegant or lovely, and it's not supposed to smell sweet like a rose. It's supposed to be informative. And what we want to do and what we want to get better at is coming up with file names that make it easier for you to work with your files later on. So with that in mind, here's the point I want to get to, just as a bit of an overview, right, is this. Some file names are good, and I will go through in these videos why these file names are good ones. So if I've got reading 01 underscore Shakespeare underscore Romeo and Juliet underscore act 1 .docx. So that's clearly a Word file. It's the first of my readings. It's a Shakespeare play. The play is Romeo and Juliet, and apparently this document only includes act 1. Like, the document name tells you what it is. And so you can see here's a bunch of other things. So I might be, later in my class I might get to reading number 19, which apparently is Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. And these are good file names. Other file names are bad. Here is an example of, here are a whole lot of examples of bad file names. So here we have the first one, Romeo and Juliet Act 1, with a whole lot of, notice that there are white spaces. There are little gaps, little holes with actual spaces in there. So Romeo and Juliet Act 1 is a problem. So this document here is a problem because of the white spaces. The one underneath it is Romeo and Juliet Act 2, but notice that some of the letters are lowercase when the previous one was uppercase. We have things in here where I've kind of gone Shakespeare Othello, I think, with a question mark. Bell Jar Plath, which now apparently has the author name and the file name, the book name in a different order. And then it's got that little bracket 1 that you get. You see it a lot when people have copied things. Sometimes you'll see on different operating systems, you see something with bracket copy or something like that. Those are bad things as well. So what we want to do is learn to make file names that look like this and not file names that look like that. And when I put them side by side like this, it's easy enough to, you get the intuition that there's something systematic that's going on in the ones at the top, and there's something messy or effortful about the other ones. And so I'm going to go through the principles of what makes one set of files easy and clean, and what makes another set effortful. And there are three principles in it that you need to try to keep in mind when you do this, and they are: first, be nice to machines; second, be nice to humans; and third, make sorting and searching through your files easy. And in the following videos, I'll pick up on these points and expand on them in more detail. So the next one, I'll pick up from this slide, and I will talk about the kinds of names that machines like. And now I just need to figure out how to stop the recording. Yes, there it is.